days we are in. We welcome the press for joining us today as we communicate about a couple of issues. Are we ready? Okay, sorry. Yeah, so we want to welcome you to this press conference as we highlight a couple of issues. One, we did see the very unfortunate incident at Kiteezi landfill. Several people died, and some are yet to be recovered. Some people are still missing. One, we sympathize with the bereaved families and those that have been injured in this very unfortunate incident, and of course those that lost property. It's sad. It is sad that in this day and age, people can die under garbage heaps. In the past, it was mudslides and so on. Now it is garbage heaps. For that to happen in 2024 is a very sad state of affairs. We understand there was a slowing down in recovery efforts. We want to encourage those who have been doing this work not to stop, because about 28 people are still missing. These people have loved ones who want to know the fate of their loved ones, whether they're still alive under the heaps. That would take a miracle, and our prayers are with them. That these families are saying, well, if our people have died already, can the bodies be recovered so that we have proper closure? So we are encouraging those that have been on the rescue operation not to stop, because there's 28 people who are still missing, who have not been accounted for. We must be able to account for these people. We expected that by now, heads would have rolled in an incident like this, which is negligence of the highest order as far as we are concerned. Because it was known by the officials within KCCA, we saw the correspondences, warnings about an impending disaster, which would lead to loss of lives. All that properly documented. But nothing happened, except the disaster that did happen. We have yet to see people be held responsible. In other serious places, people would be held responsible with immediacy. That has not happened yet, unfortunately. People cannot die under garbage, and it's business as usual. And yet there were warnings. You see, disasters many times are unexpected. And if something is unexpected, it is understandable. This one was expected. Even according to the correspondences, letters written within KCCA, it was expected. They saw it coming. But not much did happen. So we are demanding two things. One, government to move faster in restoring the livelihoods of those who were affected by this disaster. Two, the families, the bereaved families, have not been compensated. And look, there is no money adequate to fill the gap of a loved one. But it's important that when a thing like this happens, especially with negligence, people have got to be compensated. What we saw government do was to give 5 million shillings to the bereaved families and then 1 million to those who were injured. But you see, that 5 million might not even be enough for them to transport their dead and then carry out the burial process. It's not compensation at all. So we are demanding that government, with immediacy, compensates these families adequately. Once that does not happen in the soonest, we are encouraging these bereaved families, the affected families, and we are going to support them in taking legal action against government. Because this is a clear case of negligence. There were warnings which were not heeded to, and people have died because KCCA and government, for that matter, were negligent. So we are demanding that these families, those that lost their loved ones, those that were injured, those that have lost property, to be compensated with immediacy and adequately. If that does not happen, we are engaging these bereaved families so that we take legal action against government. Our hope is that government doesn't wait for that legal action, because the clear case of negligence. And like I'm saying, government should not even, should move. If you're a serious caring government, they should have moved very quickly. One, to hold those responsible accountable, and two, to compensate these people, because they are being sheltered in tents, they have no food to eat, they are stuck. And yet this was occasioned on them because of the negligence of KCCA and government. So we are hoping that this compensation happens immediately, because these families, they need help. They are stuck. We don't want now another disaster to happen, whether it be, I don't know, cholera or whatever the case might be, because they are in these tents very stuck. We also want government to comprehensively address the nation about a clear plan to deal with garbage. I've seen KCCA officials trying to reach out to certain regions, Entebbe, Kira, and some have allowed them to dump the garbage for a few days and so on. It's not comprehensive. What's the plan? Because 136 acres were bought in a place called Dundu in Mukono. And for years, not much has happened. What is the plan? Because people are stuck with garbage in their homes, in the city. That's another potential disaster that could happen. We need to see a clear plan. But also, we want to encourage government. It is sad that this government does not listen. So even when you advise them, they listen not. But in serious countries, there get to be efforts in recycling garbage. KCC has always been talking about moving from garbage to energy, metamorphosing this garbage into energy. What's the plan around that? Because we might be here again after a bit of time, for as long as there's no comprehensive plan to deal with these issues. So as we are saying, compensate the people, let there be a clear plan about where garbage is going to be deposited. We need to fast-track efforts to recycle garbage, to be able to turn it into something of value, and that is energy. It is possible. We want to see a moving into that direction. The other matter we want to talk about is something we have addressed you on, that's been in the news for a while, and that's the regional sittings. I saw yesterday my picture being used to promote these regional sittings, even after we came out clearly expressing concerns about this. I don't know if it is blackmail or whatever the case might be. Look, we reiterate the fact that we are opposed to these regional sittings. Does that mean we are opposed to the regions, the different regions, and the country for that matter? Of course not. One of the things we have been saying is, if government, if Parliament is serious about addressing the concerns from the different regions, why don't we allocate a week here in our plenary to each region, and we say this week we are now going to be handling matters to do with Western Uganda, next week Northern Uganda, then Eastern, Central, like that. In that particular week, you have all the ministers concerned, members of Parliament from those areas raising all these different issues, and then we come out with clear action plans. That's less costly, and yet you would be addressing the concerns of these different regions. It is less costly than the billions to be spent in transporting the entire Parliament to these different regions. So for those that have been misrepresenting us, saying the LOP and these opposition MPs are against these different regions, far from it. Far from it. In fact, the concerns of many of these places have been raised severally by members of Parliament from these different places, and not much has been done. Why are we not insisting that action gets to be taken? Our colleagues from Northern Uganda have severally raised the issue of Karuma Bridge, which has been closed out to several vehicles, especially the heavy ones, and so transport fares have doubled, travel time has doubled. That's an issue we know about. Why don't we push government to deal with it immediately? The Upper Land question to date is still unresolved. The question of boundaries in Northern Uganda, which has caused skirmishes here and there, is still not addressed. effects of nodding syndrome are still glaring, and our colleagues from northern Uganda have raised those issues here in Kampala in our plenary severally. And now you want to lie to them that once Parliament moves to their region, those issues are going to be addressed. And if they've been raising those issues here in our plenary, and ministers present, and not much has happened, we should be pressing government to addressing these concerns. So it is not true when you clearly hoodwink people and say, now, when we come there, those issues are going to be addressed. The issues are known. And our colleagues from these different regions have been raising these concerns. That's what we must be insisting on. Committees of Parliament, as we have been saying, ought to be empowered. And committees have gone to these places, different parts of the country, specifically northern Uganda, and they have brought back reports which we have discussed, whether it be about nodding syndrome, cattle rustling, APA, land question, the Karuma Bridge that has been closed off to several vehicles and so on. And even now, as we speak, there are some committees that have gone ahead of Parliament. Again, that is less costly, because if you're sending committees, when they bring reports, let's attend to those reports. Why do you want to insist that now we must take the entire Parliament at a huge cost? As if we don't know the issues of concern to the north and to the west and east and central. We know these concerns. If we care about these people, let's address those concerns, because they are members of Parliament whom they sent to represent them have raised those issues severally as matters of national importance and so on and so forth. So to spend a lot more money for Parliament to go and sit in this area, and yet it will still be Parliament, because people are not going to come and attend Parliament and address Parliament, because that's not what happens. Any few that will come will be in the gallery, whichever the gallery will be. So we have seen people who have used this situation to blackmail us and say we are against northern Uganda, or no, the regional sittings are not just in the north. They're meant to be in every region. So it's just that the northern region is meant to be the first place. But we are saying, let's address the issues of northern Uganda, because the northern Uganda has got concerns. The western Uganda, eastern, central have got several concerns. Can we address those critical concerns? The other concern that I did have, which I have raised severally, is the clandestine way in which these matters have been handled. The Speaker calls a meeting of a few commissioners here and there, and then they decide. We're going to have regional sittings and we're going to spend these billions of shillings. Why do you not invite the rest of us, members of the commission, so we can have our input? What are you hiding? Because normally when there is huge endeavors such as this, there's a worry about misappropriation of taxpayer money. And when things are done under the table, why do you do them under the table? I've written to the Speaker severally about this matter. There's been no response. The only response which I got a few days ago was the Speaker writing to me and requesting me to mobilize opposition MPs to go for the regional sitting. Why do you take us for a ride? That you want to bring us on board only at the tail end. So our views don't matter from the word go. You sit, decide with whoever you decide to spend billions of shillings, and then at the tail end, you're writing to me and saying, please mobilize your members. How? What are you hiding that eventually might come through regarding accountability issues? So we need to address the concerns of the people of Uganda. Medical interns have been protesting almost every day. The Ministry of Health said they need 18 billion shillings to deploy these medical interns. Why can't we press government to bring a supplementary over that? Parliament has passed several supplementaries over ridiculous things. This is important. And the medical interns, it is not just for their good that they get to finish their course, but no, they are deployed in hospitals in the different regions, and they get to address medical challenges there. And by the way, these regional hospitals and health centers, the bulk of the work is done by medical interns. That's another way of you sorting out the concerns, the medical health concerns in the different regions and so on. Let's address the critical issues, as opposed to just politicking and saying now people are going to be happy that MPs are in their area. But you see, it will not be of any use or relevance if we spend these billions, transport all MPs, ministers, staff of Parliament to Gulu to sit there, and then we leave Gulu. But the war claimants who have been claiming for their money for a very long time have not been paid. Their power land question is not resolved. Karuma continues to be cut off. And for that matter, the entire north is cut off in many respects because of that, the cattle rustling and all of these issues. So let's major on majors and minor on minors. We think that transporting the entire parliament for an entire week and all the billions that are to be spent is a minor. The major should be to address the critical concerns of the people of northern Uganda, which we know, which the members of parliament from northern Uganda have been raising on the floor of parliament. That's what we should be dealing with. The other issue that we want to talk about is we did see a communication from the Speaker of Parliament regarding a censure motion that's been on for some time after a court case. There are some people who went to court quietly on a matter of public interest litigation. We got to know about this court matter when the ruling was out. Normally, public interest litigation doesn't operate this way. It's done clandestinely, and then people only get to hear at the tail end when there's a ruling. We have been looking for the petitioner to no avail because we wanted to encourage him to appeal. But he's not available to us, clearly showing who might have gone to court or who might have taken themselves to court. But that on the side. If our colleagues, the commissioners, thought that this court ruling exonerated them, incidentally, it does not. I'm hoping they had time to read the entire, about 23-page judgment. Because while court might be saying, it is okay for you political leaders that this matter passed through the channels it should have, court is saying the clerk to parliament should be punished. We are saying, why then would you be punishing the clerk to parliament if all was well with these service award issues? Because what did the clerk do? The clerk attended this meeting. The clerk attends commission meetings as secretary to the commission and takes note of decisions taken by the commission, and his role is to implement. He does not take decisions on behalf of the commission. The commission takes decisions and then tells the clerk, go and implement. So now, you want to punish the one who implemented. How does that make sense? The clerk did not participate in this decision. The clerk did not even benefit from this service award. But you're saying those that came up with the idea, passed it, and got the money, it is okay. But the clerk to parliament, whose role was to implement the decision taken, has got to be punished. It's very problematic. Even a non-lawyer can see that there is a problem. But bottom line is, it does not get the commissioners off the hook. Because if the court that you run to absolve you is saying, okay, we are absolving you, but the clerk should be punished, the clerk is being punished for the money that you agreed to give yourselves and that you eventually got. So it does not take away the question of the service award being problematic. I want to encourage the Speaker of Parliament, Right Honourable Anita Annette Among Magogo, not to be afraid of debate. Because what the censure motion was saying is, let's debate this issue. I don't know why the Speaker is trying to run away from debate. I don't know what she's trying to shield. Of course, also given that she chaired this particular meeting. So I want to encourage her, do not be afraid of debate if what you guys did was right. Especially now that they are saying the clerk should be punished. For what exactly? What wrong did the clerk do? Away from these people who agreed to give themselves money and they got this money. The commissioners may run, but they cannot hide forever regarding this issue. Because as we have said from the word go, it was problematic. These are people who were in office for a few months. And a few months down the road, you're saying, let's sit and award ourselves money. For what? What exactly had you done in a few months' time? What, really, had you done? And then, of course, for the then LOP, I don't know, it's ironical that government says you have opposed us nicely, so we are now awarding you for opposing us nicely. Some of these things don't make sense. So we are not dropping the ball on this issue. What happened was wrong, and court has actually said that. That's why they're saying the clerk should be punished. And again, people can pettifog over the legality and so on. The bigger issue is the moral question regarding this matter. It was immoral. And so the Speaker of Parliament should not try to shield these people. Because there's many things that happen in that commission that are problematic under the Speaker's watch. No wonder they don't invite some of us to these commission meetings, because they know we shall challenge these things, we shall say no. But they sit there and then say, now, the Speaker, for example, gave her radio station, Mama Bukedia FM, a contract worth 3.1 billion shillings to do parliament work. But how far does Mama Bukedia FM go? Why was that contract not openly bidded for? Because you have many media houses here which reach far and beyond the entire Uganda. But they sit quietly and they do these things. They sit quietly and then decide that now 591 million shillings is going to buy generators for private homes. Another 523 million is going to buy razor fence and solar lights for the Speaker's private home in Bukedia. Can you imagine this nonsense? And committees are struggling with money to go and do business, their work out there. But they keep sitting in these commission meetings quietly, and they pass these very ridiculous things. We did tell you about the over 10.6 billion shillings, which was being put on accounts of staff members of Parliament, then they would withdraw and take it to the Speaker. No wonder she's putting up all these different things, I don't know, stadium, hospital, and so on, clearly feeding into what she said when she was in Luengo, that it is okay to steal taxpayers' money as long as you share it with the voters. But these things are not public goods. So we are keeping our eye on the Speaker and the Commission. We want them to do the right thing. When we insist on these things, some people think there's bad blood between, whether it be myself and the Speaker of Parliament. I respect the Speaker of Parliament because of the office that she occupies, but then I'll not agree with her at all when she misappropriates money, when she violates the law as she keeps doing. No. So this corruption that keeps happening in the Commission, very quietly, when they have those meetings, very quietly see it. And that's why that small group of commissioners doesn't say no when the Speaker says, now I want 3.1 billion shillings given to my radio in Bukedia. Now I need 500 plus million to build a razor fence for me and to buy solar lights for her home in Bukedia, and then generators and all these different things. They will not say no, because she also gives them some through the service awards. So the Commission needs to stop operating like a cartel. And that's the concern of members of Parliament, those that have signed the motion, and the general public. So when we say these things, it's not just because we are opposition. Because even NRM MPs, in fact, majority of those that signed are NRM MPs, it is of concern. And we'll not keep quiet about these issues. Finally, we'd like to address you on diplomatic issues of our country. One Henry Maega, Uganda's Deputy Ambassador to UAE and Consular General at Uganda's consulate in Dubai, has been recalled over the gambling machines scandal. That our consulate in Dubai turned into a casino. You can imagine. During the day, it is a consulate. At night, it is a gambling center. Just think about these things. And then one Joy Ruth Acheng, Uganda's ambassador to Canada, has also been expelled by Canada, which declared her persona non grata for uncouth behavior. The challenge we have in this country is that people are not appointed based on meritocracy. Because we should be having ambassadors who are career diplomats, who know what to do. But many times, political failures. Somebody runs for political office, they fail, then they're appointed ambassador. So they go to extend their politics. And this incompetence in some of these countries. But you see, some countries are serious. Canada is a serious country. Said, you're not here to do politics, because she was on the street, all dressed up like I don't know what. On the street, she hired some, people seeking asylum, Kenyans, Ethiopians, and so on, gave them some dollars, dressed them in yellow, and then the ambassador is on the streets in Canada protesting and saying, you see, Museveni's regime is doing a good job. An ambassador? I don't even know if they are oriented through these roles. We are glad that Canada took the decision that it took, because this incompetence, while it can thrive here in Uganda, in some countries it is unacceptable. And we are encouraging other countries out there, where you see these incompetent ambassadors, send them back home, because they misrepresent all of us. Oh yes, they do, because they are representing the image of Uganda. But they're out there, many of them being jokers, involving themselves in unscrupulous things. So we are glad that these steps have been taken. Our hope is that there can be a thorough review of all the ambassadors we have in this country, because majority of the ambassadors that we have sent as a country to different countries are political failures. And I'm not saying that in bad light, because somebody can fail politically. You run for office, fail. Does that mean then plan B is for you to become an ambassador? Why don't we nurture? Do we not have career diplomats that can represent us well? These people that have failed in politics, okay, you can appoint them RDC, assistant RDC, so that confusion remains around here. But now when you export that confusion elsewhere, or you can even make them presidential advisors and so on and so forth. But when you export this incompetence, it makes all of us as a country look bad. All of us. Because we are all Ugandans and this country belongs to us. So our hope is that there can be a thorough review of all the ambassadors, and that's what we are tasking government to do. So that those that don't know what to do, bring them back home. Give them RDC positions, presidential advisors, and so on. Let that confusion remain here, so that we do not export confusion and incompetence. It can be here for local content, but let's not export it out there. Kale, tubyogere mu Luganda, okusookera ddala enjega eyagwa ekiteezi yennyamiza, nate twongera okusaasira families ezaafiirwa abantu baabwe, abalala baakosebwa abangi, abalala ne bafiirwa ebyabwe, bangi tebannamanya n'abantu baabwe wawe bali. Kyannaku nnyo twawuliddeko nti balekedde awo operation ey'okunoonya abantu. Twagala obbakubira omulanga temulekere awo, kubanga twawulidde abantu 28 tebannamanyika mayitire. Famiri z'abantu bano zigamba bannaye twagala okutegeera oba baafa, kale batuwe emirambo tugifune tugiziike. So tetuyinza gamba nti tulekedde awo okunoonyereza. Poliisi ne KCC abakibaddemu munoonyereze, musigale nga mukola operation eyo, emirambo gino oba gikyali wansi eyo, family efuna waakiri obuweerero ng'etegedde nti kale bafunye omulambo ne baguziika. Naye nga twongera okuvumirira olusaagiriro oluli mu mirimu gya gavumenti, kiyite incompetence, negligence, obulagajjavu obw'ekika ekyawaggulu. Kubanga ekyagwa ekiteezi si kigwa kitalaze. Manyi tulina ebintu bingi ebibeerawo nga kigwa kitalaze. Kino ekyekiteezi munnange kyalaga. Amabaluwa gawandiikibwa twagalabye nga waliyo zi warning nti naye bannange wano tubeewo kye tukola, kubanga ebisasiro bino bigenda kugwira abantu. Ne wayitawo weeks eziwera tewali kyakolebwa. So katuyinza gamba abantu nti kino kigwa kitalaze, kubanga kyalaga. Bakitegeerako, tebalina kye baakola. Kati buno bwe bulagajjavu. In fact, ffe twalisuubidde nti abamu baali badde baagobwa ne ku mirimu gyabwe oba n'okulekulira. ku lw'obulagajjavu buno, kubanga mu mwaka 2024 ng'abantu bagwirwa ebisaaniiko ne bigwira abantu ne bibatta ebisaaniiko kasasiro in this day and age, kikyamu tekikkirizibwa. Gavumenti twakitegeerako nti yawaabo abaafiirwa abantu baabwe miliyoni 5 abo abaafuna obuvune ne bawa miliyoni 1. Miliyoni 5 teziyamba n'abantu kutegeka kuziika muntu waabwe, ate mpulidde nti bonna tebannazifuna, baasuubiza busuubiza. Kati ffe kitugamba nti gavumenti ekole bunnambiro okukompensatinga abantu bano okubaliyirira. Of course tewali ssente ze bayinza kuwa ezinaakomyawo omuntu wo afudde, naye ekyo kiba kugamba nti gutusinze nga gavumenti olw'obulagajjavu, negligence eyo, abantu bano bakompensatingibwe nga bwe kirina okubeera ekimalira ddala obulungi. So sigamba nti miliyoni 5 genda ozika omuntu wo, miliyoni 1 genda wejjanjabe, nedda, oyo si compensation gwe tugamba. Era kino bwe kitaakolebwa, tuli mu kwogeragana na families zino abaafiirwako abantu baabwe, era nga tugenda bayambako okuteeka omusango mu kkooti olw'obulagajjavu buno, kubanga abantu baabwe baafa ku lw'obulagajjavu bwa KCCA ne gavumenti. Bakitegeerako nti ebisaaniko bino binaatera okuyiikira abantu, tebalina kye bakolawo. So bw'ataabeerewo compensation kuliyirira abantu baffe bano okumala, tugenda bayambako okuteeka omusango mu kkooti, kuba gavumenti oluusi yeetaaga giteekako kazito. In fact yalirinze nakola ekyo, bw'obanga oli gavumenti naddala ng'ofaayo eri abantu. Baali badde abamu nga ba officials abamu baagobebwa dda, era gavumenti nga yamuvinze dda okuliyirira abantu bano, naye kati bali awo mu zitenti, tebalina mmere, embeera gye balimu mbi, naye ate nga gavumenti yalagajjira ensonga zino ekyaliwo terina kyekolawo. So katusuubire banaamuvinga bunnambiro. Awatali ekyo tugenda kuyamba abantu bano bateeke omusango mu kkooti ogw'obulagajjavu, negligence, ku nsonga eno. N'ekirala, ne gavumenti bategeeze eggwanga pulaani eryetya ey'akasasiro going forward, kubanga bagezaako enkumba ne bagenda ne babowa ennaku bazaalinnya, ne bagezaako ekira nawa, buli wabagenda nabo bagamba waayi akafo kaffe katono, tetujja kusobola kasasiro oyo yenna. Ate nawulidde abamu nga banyiiga nti naye lwaki temutukkiriza? Well, nabo oba understandinga bw'agamba nti kaakati akafo kaffe katono, bwe tunaagamba nti lubeerera musigale nga muyiwa wano kasasiro, nabo kijja bazitoowerera. Kaakati twagala okutegeera okuva eri KCCA ne gavumenti pulaani eri ki? Waliwo eka 136 ezaagulibwa emukono eyo ddundu. Ettaka eryo ki ekyalituukako? Kuba tuwulira liriko n'empalana naki, ki ekyatuukawo? Kubanga obuwumbi obuwerera ddala bwakozesebwa okugula ettaka eryo. Kiki update ku nsonga eyo? Kubanga tugenda sigala nga buli kanaku onoonyawo n'okasuka kasasiro, buli kanaku tekiri comprehensive kwa kasasiro wa Kampala muyitirivu. N'ekirala, gavumenti twalirowoozeza nti yalibadde serious nnyo ku nsonga ez'okuprocessinga kasasiro ono, okumuggyamu amasannyalaze, ebigimusa n'ebirala. Tekinologiya oyo waali, lwaki gavumenti tetadde essira ku nsonga ezo? Lwaki? Kubanga really mu mwaka guno gwe tulimu tekinologiya kati ebintu bingi ebiriwo. Abantu mu mawanga gamu tebakyabonaabona ne kasasiro, bamufuna ne bamurecyclinga ne bamuprocessinga, ne muvaamu kino ne muvaamu kiri ne muvaamu kiri. Gavumenti pulaani yammwe eri ki? KCCA ne gavumenti twagala ogitegeere, eggwanga ligitegeere tumanye, kubanga we tulina okugenda. Otherwise tojja sigala nga onoonya nti kaakati eddundu, kubanga n'eddundu n'ekiseera kijja tuuka nawe wajjule ng'okola otya, ng'onoonya awalala. Tunaasigala bwe tutyo, ate nga kasasiro ono tuyinza omumuggyamu omugaso oguyinza okuyamba eggwanga lyaffe. Kati tusoomooza KCCA ne gavumenti, twagala okutegeera pulaani eri etya ku nsonga ezo. Ensonga endala gye twagala okwogerako ya ntuula za Parliament. ezigenda okubeera mu bitundu by'eggwanga ebyenjawulo, regional seatings. Nalabye Parliament ekozesa ekifaananyi kyange okugezaako okuzipromotinga ate nga bamanyi position yaffe ku nsonga eno naye ng'oboolyawo bagezaako okunsika eriyo. Akumunaye kafu twagamba nti entuula zino ez'omu bitundu ebyenjawulo si nnungi ku lwaki? Kino kye bawuddiisa abantu nti kakati Parliament bw'enejja mu kitundu kyammwe ensonga zammwe zigenda kutereera, kikyamu, si kituufu. Kubanga ensonga z'ebitundu bino ebyenjawulo zimanyikiddwa. Ababaka okuva mu bitundu ebyo ebyenjawulo, okuva mu mambuka, bazze boogera ku nsonga zino ezibaluma. Kaluma Bridge yasalibwako. Kakati abantu abagenda mu Northern Uganda oba okuvaayo balina kwetoloola, transport bakozesa mungi, ebiseera ne bakozesa biyitirivu. Kwegamba Northern Uganda eringa eyasalibwako ku Uganda. Ensonga eyo gisooti nga weetaaga kusooka kugenda gulu n'otuulayo nga Parliament. Tetuze nga tuzoogerako wano nga abakiise baabo bazoogerako ensonga ezo. Bazze boogera ku cattle rustling, okubba ente zaabwe, ensonga za boundaries, nga boogera ku ttaka lya apa, abalaalo, abantu beekaluma abamu tebabaliyirira, ensonga ezo zikyaliwo. War claimants, abantu abaafiirwa ebyabwe mu lutalo. Gavumenti nga yali eyina okubaliyirira. Ne kaakati ensonga ezo tuze tuzoogerako tebannazikolako. Ensonga eza nodding syndrome, nakati abantu beeyo bakyabonaabona. Ate nga ababaka baabwe bazze boogera ku nsonga zino nga tuziteesaako mu Parliament. Kaakati tezikoleddwako, munaalowooza nti Parliament yonna yonna bw'eneesitulibwa n'etwalibwa mu Northern Uganda w'eneeviirayo ng'ensonga ezo zikoleddwako. Kubanga bwe tuba tuli serious nga Parliament ku nsonga zino tuzimanyi, tusoomooze tusindiikirize gavumenti okukola ku nsonga zino eziruma abantu bano. Kye tulina okukola mu kifo ky'ogamba Parliament yonna tugisitule, tusaasaanye buwumbi na buwumbi, just okugenda n'etuulayo. Abantu b'eggulu, abantu ba Central, Eastern, Western kye baagala nsonga zaabwe kukolebwako. So si kubawuddiisa nti kaakati abo ba Ssenyonyi abataagala Parliament gyetuule eno tebaagala bizibu byammwe kukolebwako. Ebizibu byabwe tuze tubyogerako wano mu Parliament yaffe e Kampala. Lwaki tebikolebwako? Kati nolowooza nti Parliament yonna bw'onoogisitula n'osaasanya buwumbi na buwumbi n'egendayo eyo, weenaaviirayo nga Kaluma eteredde. Ababanja ssente zaabwe nga bazifunye, ensonga za nodding syndrome, Apalandi n'ebirala byonna nga bikoleddwako, kubanga tubimanyi. Tulina kusindiikiriza gavumenti kukola ku nsonga zino. So si kuwuddiisa abantu nti kaakati Parliament bw'enejja n'etuula eno ensonga zammwe zinaakolebwako. Nedda. Ate n'ekirala, obuzibu bwe buli nti entuula zino engeri ekiteeso gye kyavaayo baabikola byonna mu nkukutu. Sipiika ng'ayita bakomishona abamu ne batuula awo ne basalawo. Kale tugenda saasaanya obuwumbi n'obuwumbi entuula za Parliament zino. Fe abamu nga tebatuyise. Kiki mukweka? Kubanga ekiteeso bwe kiba nga kirungi, lwaki mukikweka kufa abamu? Nze mpandiikira sipiika amabaluwa ag'enjawulo nga mmubuuza ku nsonga eno. Yakanziramu jjuuzi. Ate ebbaluwa gye yawandiika nga ansaba nkunge ababaka b'opposition okubeerayo mu ntuula zino. Tayanukudde ensonga zino zenze njogerako, kiteeso kyajja kitya, mwakkaanya mutya nti kaakati ssente bwe ziti buwumbi na buwumbi bwe bugenda okusaasaanyibwa, byonna byonna ebyo tabyogeddeeko. Naye ansaba kakati kunga ababaka ab'opposition gy'okulembera bajje. Ku ddiiru ki bannange? Singa mwali mwagala tubyetabe, lwaki temwatu involving okuviira ddala mu ntandikwa? Ne mumaze okuyisaayisa ebintu ebyo, ssente obuwumbi n'obuwumbi obugenda okusaasaanyibwa, kakati mwagala tugitubeegatteko wano ku last. Nedda. Ate n'ekirala, ffe tugamba nti sipiika bw'abanga afaayo nnyo ku bitundu by'eggwanga bino ebyenjawulo, kale waayo wiiki emu buli kitundu wano mu Parliament tuteese ku nsonga ezo. Nti kakati wiiki eno tugenda kuteesa ku nsonga za Western Uganda, wiiki eddako tugenda kuteesa ku nsonga za Northern Uganda. Baminisita bekikwatako bonna babeerewo, tubabuulire ekyokukola, batuwe updates, ababaka okuva mu bitundu ebyo ebyenjawulo batubuulire ekigenda mu maaso, kubanga babeera mu bitundu ebyo, bagendayo buli weekend, bamanya ensonga ezibaluma n'eziruma abantu baabwe. Tukikole wano. Awo ndikikola nga ssente mpitirivu tezisaasaanyiddwa mu ngeri etategeerekeka, ebyenkukutu bye bagezaako okukola. obanga ofaayo nnyo ku nsonga z'abantu bano muze mulaba abayizi abaakamala emisomo gyabwe abasawo medical interns nga beekalakaasa buli kanaku banaye mutu deploying. Ministry of Health yagamba twetaaga billioni 18 backlog yonna abo okuba deployinga. Parliament bwe beefaayo nnyo ku bitundu by'eggwanga eby'enjawulo, lwaki tetusoomooza gavumenti leeta supplementary budget abasawo bano bagende mu bitundu by'eggwanga eby'enjawulo, kubanga ebitundu bino ekimu ku ebyo kye byetaaga be basawo. Amalwaliro ga gavumenti agasinga mu bitundu by'eggwanga eby'enjawulo teri basawo, ate nga bano ba medical interns be bakola omulimu ogusinga nga bali mu bitundu ebyo. Lwaki ekyo tekikolebwa? Kubanga bw'okola ekyo regions zino bozifuddeko nnyo, kubanga ba medical interns tebadeployingibwa wano Kampala wokka, badeployingibwa mu Northern Uganda, Western, Eastern, Central yonna. Lwaki tetukikola? Tulage nti tufaayo nnyo ku bitundu by'eggwanga eby'enjawulo. So ffe tukyagamba nti ensonga eno tetugenda gyetaba musi nti abantu b'emu bitundu by'eggwanga eby'enjawulo tetubaagala, nedda naye tugamba nti baleme kubawuddiisa nti Parliament bw'ene saasaanya obuwumbi n'obuwumbi okujja n'etuula eyo weeneeviirayo ng'ebizibu byammwe bigonjooleddwa. Nedda, ebizibu ebyo tubimanyi, bikolebweko, kuba tuze tubiteesaako wano e Kampala nga tuyinza n'obiddingana nga ssente empitirivu tezisaasaanyiddwa. Ensonga endala gye twagala okwogerako ensonga y'abannaffe ba commissioners. Twabiwulira beetwala mu kooti ogezaako okusiiga akazigo ku nsonga eno. Tubadde tunoonya omukulu yatwala ensonga eno mu kooti nga twagala okumwencouraginga ateekeyo appeal, naye tafunika kubanga oba oli awo abaamutuma okuteekayo omusango guno tebaagala appeal eteekebweyo. Kati kikulaga nti omusango guno gwayita mu nkutu, buli omu yagutegeerako nga kooti efulumiza ensala yaagwo. Ekyo nno kyewuunyisa. Naye bannaffe bano bwe baba nga baagenda mu kooti okugezaako okwenaazaako enziro, ate ne kooti teyabawadde ekyo kye baali baagala, kubanga kooti yavuddeyo n'egamba nti kaakati kalaani wa Parliament, clerk to Parliament, abonerezebwe ku lwa service award ze baawa ba commissioners. Kaakati clerk wa Parliament omubonereza otya ekikolwa ekyakolebwa bwe nga kyali kirungi, kubanga ye atula mu commission meetings n'awandiika minutes. Commission kyesazeewo kyalina okuteeka mu nkola ye nga clerk. Kati kye baasalawo kati tutudde wano twegabire ssente. Baali baakabeera mu ofiisi myezi bwezi ne batuula nti kakati tukoze bulungi emirimu gyaffe twesiime. Babasiima ki emyezi bwezi nga mwakatula mu ofiisi? Munnange yali leader of opposition nti gavumenti eyagala kusiima kubanga ogiwakanyiza bulungi, ogivuganyiza bulungi. Ebintu bino munnange tebikola makulu, ne bwe tunaabisiiga akazigo tutya. Kakati kooti gye baddukidde egamba nti clerk abonerezebwe. Kati kikulaga nti waliwo ekikyamu ekyakolebwa. Temuyinza okugamba nti legal issues naki, naye kusingira ddala moral issues, nti ebikyamu ebyakolebwa kyobudwala ne clerk baagala abonerezebwe. Speaker yawandiise ebbaluwa ng'agamba nti kaakati censure motion genda maaso kubanga kooti esazeewo. Kooti yasalawo ki? Lwaki kooti eyagala clerk abonerezebwe ng'ate abafuna ssente weebali? Kati ffe tugamba nti twagala okudiringa nabo politically. Njagala kubira omulanga Speaker wa Parliament, Right Honorable Anita Anet Among Magogo. Toyolesa butiitiizi munnange. Ensonga giteeke ku order paper tukiteeseeko. Bwe kiba ng'ekyakolebwa kyali kirungi tukiteeseeko. Kuba kooti egamba clerk abonerezebwe kubanga waliwo bitaatambula bulungi. Lwaki toyagala tubiteeseeko? Kuba kooti teyagamba nti temubiteesaako nga Parliament. Ekyo si kooti, si kye yagamba nga kooti. Naye kati ye agezaako kukozesa obukujjukujju okubikkirira abantu bano, kubanga bingi ebigenda mu maaso mu komishoni eyo. Abamu gye batatuyita ebikyamu. Batuula eyo, Speaker neyewa contract, yawa radio ye bagiyita Mama Bukedya FM eri eyo Bukedya. contract ya buwumbi 3 mu milioni 10 okola emirimu gya Parliament. Nenebuuza lwaki tebasaba media houses endala zi radio zi TV ezina frequency etuuka mu ggwanga lyonna kubanga eyabukeddi yayo etuuka mu kitundu ekitonotono awo. Lwaki bano abalala nabo temwabayita okuteekayo bidding tulaba ani asinga alina frequency neno okutambuza emirimu gya gavumenti naye neewa contract eyo ne batuula nti kakati nga speaker neetaaga okuteeka waza razor fence n'okugula solar lights mu maka ge ag'obwannannyini ag'ebukeddia ne baziisa milioni 5 okweyongerayo ne bayisa n'endala 591 eza generator. Kati bakomishona abo baatula nabo mu bukundi mu kukukuta tebayinza gaana kubanga nabo abawaayoko busaabiisa bwali n'obulala. Kati komishoni eno ekyali ku spotlight kubanga sente empitirivu ezibbibwa mu komishoni eyo. Kyovudde olaba speaker agezaako okubikkirira ffe tetugenda kusirika ku nsonga z'obubbi, ensonga za corruption ezigenda maaso mu komishoni eno. N'ekirala mwalaba buwumbi bwali 10 mu milioni 600 zaateekebwa ku accounts z'abakozi ba gavumenti ne bazijjayo ne baziwa speaker n'azikozesa ki? Tuwulira ebintu bingi byakoze eyo. Ewuwe azimbye eddwaliro, azimbye essomero, ekisaawe naki ngalinga atuukiriza kye yayogera bwe yali erwengo nti ate wali buzibu bubba ssente z'omuwa omusolo kasita ozigabanako n'abantu bo n'ebintu by'ozimbye bibyo ng'omuntu si bya ggwanga. So awo tugenda kulemerawo paka abalowooza nti tujja ekigere ku accelerator tukyalemerako paka. Finally, ensonga y'aba ambassadors twalaba Henry Mayiga deputy ambassador wa Uganda UAE era consular general e Dubai yayitiddwa okuvaayo kubanga mwabiwulira nti embassy yaffe eyo consulate emisana ebeera eweereza nga embassy ekiro nga bali eyo mu Zaala taddeyo bigambling machine. You can imagine embassy yakati yafuuka center ya Zaala gambling. Omulala ambassador wa Uganda Joel Ssenyonyi owe Canada oyo yagobeddwa lwa kweyisanga ekitagasa uncouth behavior. Yambaza obugoye n'afunaawo ba refugees aba Ethiopia aba Kenya n'abawo obusente tugende twekalakaase ku streets za Canada nga tugamba Mwami Museveni akoze bulungi nnyo ambassador. Kati Canada yo ngeri gyeri serious negamba kana akavuyo tujja kakkiriza parking ebibyo oddeyo but we ambassador amanye ekyokola. Obuzibu bwe buli nti ba ambassadors bano bonna abasinga tebagwanidde na kubeera ba ambassador. Oli agenda ne yeesimbawo kubeera omubaka n'agwa kale plan B katukuwa obwa ambassador ne bagenda eyo ne bakola akavuyo akayitirivu kuba tebamanyi kyakukola. Baba balowooza nti kakati agenzeera eyo okukolerayo politics waabwe wa NRM. Ambassador si bwalina okweyisa bwati. So tugamba twagala wabeerewo review ey'abambasada baffe mu mawanga gonna gye twabasindika. Abantu bano bagwanidde okubeerayo balina ebisaanyizo ebiwera kubanga abasinga weesimbeewo n'ogwa mu kifo ky'okutwala eyo otuswaze bakuwa obwa RDC wano bakuwa obwa presidential advisor obeere wano akavuyo kakolere wano wakiri mu kifo ky'okugenda eyo otuswalize eyo. So twagala wabeerewo review y'abambassadors bonna be tulina mu mawanga ag'enjawulo kubanga tukoye okuswala bannange. Gavumenti egenda negamba nti kakati mwaba opposition mutwogerako ebikyamu bwe mugenda eyo ne mutambula mutuswaza. Kati ono yabaswaza yekka ate ffenna n'atuswaza kubanga ambassador waffe ng'eggwanga. So kitwagala okulaba wabeerewo review to make sure nti tulina abantu abagwanidde career diplomats abagwanidde okutukiikirira ng'eggwanga. Ebyo ebyaffe. Asks that as the opposition engaged these anti-corruption agencies, it's actually a few weeks ago when I did call you people here And I even shared with you the correspondences when I wrote to the IGG, DPP, Auditor General, asking them to investigate the corruption in Parliament. I can reshare those correspondences. Some of them wrote back, and then I wrote back. So maybe you were absent that day, but I will share those correspondences because, yes, we have written. And we have put to task these anti-corruption agencies, asking them to do their job. In one of the responses by the IGG at the time, she said, the Auditor General was still investigating, so we don't want to crowd the investigation. So we are waiting for the Auditor General to finish, then we shall come in. So very soon I'm going to write to her, asking her whether it is not due now for her to come in, because I want to imagine the Auditor General should have finished, or whatever the timeline is. So, but to answer you very directly, yes, we have written. I shared with you those letters, the media houses, here at the press conference. But I can share them again. Shamim, why take a while to talk about Kiteezi? That's not true. Even when I was away, the acting LOP, Chief Opposition Whip, the Honorable John Baptist Nambeshe, has addressed this issue severally on the floor of Parliament. The area leaders, Honorable Muwada Nkunyinji, who is part of a shadow cabinet, and others, have been addressing these matters. So when we are away, we don't move with the offices, or work does not stall. So you might not have heard me specifically because I have been away, but that doesn't mean the leaders who have been around have not been following up these issues, and I've been in touch with them. So, yeah, perhaps you wanted to hear my voice. Now you have heard it, now that I am back on that issue. Humza is saying that I have not visited different parts of the country. Two things. One, that's not true. I've been to different parts of the country, whether it be as we carry out our mobilization activities as a country. When we go to these places, we also get to connect with the people, and we see the ills that are happening there. We've had by-elections, and we have gone to these different places. I might not have gone, whether it be in the capacity of now as law, because there are challenges there. So when I went with the shadow cabinet to tour the roads in Kampala and the mess they were in, the clerk got orders from the speaker to withdraw the parliamentary vans. Can you imagine such pettiness? So they withdrew them, and then we had to hire taxis so that we continue with our work. So there can be those petty issues here at Parliament, that because Ssenyonyi is insisting on corruption in Parliament, we shall make it difficult for him to, whether it be do his oversight role and so on, but I still do find ways of doing that. So yes, I've been to many of these different parts. Recently, we were in Western Uganda districts, and we saw the mess there of, as it has been in several other districts here. But I think importantly, when you say that, how do we know the issues concerning these people when we don't go there? Like I'm saying, one, we do go there, but number two, those people have legislators who have continuously raised these issues. So Parliament going to sit there in a big tent does not mean that that's when we'll get to know these issues, because we know them. They are always raised by their representatives whom they send to Parliament. So it's a lie to say that for the first time we are going to get to know these concerns when Parliament goes and holds a sitting there. That's a fallacy, really. Because these colleagues from these different places, every now and again, matter of national importance, petitions, and so on. So as Parliament, we know these issues. And that's why I'm saying we should be moving to address them. Nakamia, some opposition MPs say they will attend. That's expected. When we stayed away from the budget reading and the State of the Nation address, there were some opposition people there. That's not unusual. So yes, even in these regional sittings, there are some that will go. Yeah, that's not unusual. When we, at the time, stayed away from Parliament over the brutality and so on, there were some who would put on their suits and then they go and sit in Parliament. So it's not unusual. It doesn't mean that we we cease to move. How does it become bad for an ambassador to express themselves? That was asked by, is it Kajubi who? Where is my friend Kajubi? I'm probably missing him. You see, with every office there comes responsibilities. There is such a thing as the Vienna Convention, which adumbrates how diplomats are meant to operate. Diplomats are not political activists. And that's why Canada expelled this person. Because they're saying you are violating the Vienna Convention, you're violating the modus operandi of diplomats as it should be internationally. Same thing with here, let's not even go so far. I mean, we see government employees who operate as political activists, which is wrong. RDCs, for example, and several others who end up doing political work, which is wrong. Government should be taking action, upon them, but it does not. Now, that doesn't mean that because our government, whether it be sheer incompetence or because they benefit out of it, that they will not take action. Other governments are serious. So when you are a diplomat, you're expected to behave like a diplomat. When you don't, they'll expel you. So it's as clear as that, because these ambassadors don't go there to mobilize for the party called NRM. They are there representing the country called Uganda. And that's why, when you are in any of those countries, regardless of your political affiliation, you should be able to go to this embassy if there's any concern or whatever. So Canada was saying, for us, we take these international treaties seriously. If for you in Uganda, you don't. Ramson, why always lament? My role as leader of the opposition is to keep the government in check. So what some people call lamenting, it is us, me and my colleagues, keeping the government in check. Of course, government will say, but you're always crying. Now you cry about corruption. Now you Ruvoa Hospital. Now these loans. Now, yes, that's my duty, to keep the government in check. When we say stop the brutality, we want service delivery, stop the corruption. Some people might see it as lamenting, but that's our duty, keeping the government in check. And we'll not stop doing that. We'll do that severally. We release alternative budgets, ministerial policy statements, minority reports, and so on. Yes, we are putting the spotlight on the issue, and then we even provide a remedy. So we're not going to stop doing that. I know that government uses that to try and blackmail us, so that we keep quiet. You're just lamenting. We are carrying out our cardinal duty, which is to keep the government in check. And we are not going to stop keeping the government in check. We'll do everything within our powers to keep the government in check. They don't like it, by the way. That's why they say, you Ssenyonyi, you're always lamenting, you're always, crying. Because they know that the issues we are raising are critical issues. And that's why we shall not stop to keep the government in check. Somebody did say, and by the way, now that we are in opposition, our role is to keep the government in check. We are saying, when we get to power, we shall just be arresting the thieves. We shall not be struggling around, essential motion, now court, now this, now press conference. We shall just arrest and lock up the thieves, because there we shall have the powers to do that. Now, ours is to keep the government in check. And that's why the country is aware of many of these things, because we are playing our role. The country is aware. And that's why when you go out there, interact with them, they tell you about these things, because we talk about them. If we keep quiet, they will not be in the know. Somebody said that Honorable Mpuga said since he left office, it is not operational. I don't know if he actually said that, but I don't want to compare myself to him. We are not comparable. No, we are not. I am Joel Ssenyonyi. And other leaders are other leaders. So, we have different yardsticks. When I came into this office, that's now when you began to know about the corruption in the Parliamentary Commission, which has been happening in the past years. because that's what they would sit and engage in all of this corruption. Now you know, because I'm speaking about these issues, and I'll not stop to speak about them. So if somebody is complaining and saying, but now you're not different, you're more radical, why don't you keep quiet about certain things? I am not him. I am Joel Ssenyonyi. I don't entertain corruption, so I will speak about it. I'll condemn it. So the corruption that's happening in the Parliamentary Commission, which you never knew about, now you do, because we are here. And we'll keep letting it out. Sometimes we do it directly, other times, say, okay. They might say, hey, but Joel seems to have a personal issue. Then I'll give the information to somebody, you put it out there. And you have been seeing information out there from different people, because we shall avail this information. That's why I'm in this office. I'm not in this office to massage anyone. I'm in this office to keep the government in check, to make sure the taxpayers' money is properly utilized. When that does not happen, I will speak out, I'll expose the rot and all of that corruption. No wonder they don't want me to attend the Parliamentary Commission meetings, because they know the dealings that happen there. Because if all was happening the right way, why don't they want me to sit there? So clearly now you know that all the while they would be sitting in these meetings cutting deals. That's why, please don't try and compare me, please. No. Eh? What you should know is that whatever information you see out there comes from somewhere. And that's why it is not disputed. Have you heard them disputing it? That information that you see wherever. It may not all have come from me, but just know it comes from somewhere, and it is true. That's why you don't see them disputing it. Did you see the speaker disputing that she gave her radio station a 3.1 billion shilling contract? Did you? When we talked about the service award of commission, which happened in May 2022, we got into office, said, what nonsense is this? The public has to know about this. Yeah, but it had happened, and they were keeping quiet about these many issues. So did you see them controverting it? They're only saying, but we deserve to be given a service award. They're not saying it is false. And all of these different things that you see out there, they're not disputing them, because they are factual. And we shall keep exposing this corruption. Several was some prisoners want to do plea bargaining. For a long time, many of these our colleagues have been telling us about being approached by state operatives in jail. Accept that you committed this offense, then you shall be released. They've told us these things because they keep being approached. And you see, that's the problem when you have regimes such as this one. Why are you pushing people to accept? Why don't you avail that evidence? Because you're saying they committed an offense. Adduce the evidence in court. But because they don't have that evidence, and they just want to mud-sling us and these people, they'll say, you accept that you did this, and then we forgive you. Because if they had evidence 4 years down the road, you should have availed that evidence in court. But it's not there. And they'll keep pressing these people against the wall, and yes, some might capitulate because they are human. All right? There are some that have said, no, we will not accept because we have not committed any offense. But there are others who might capitulate. They are human, and they'll say, you know what? I've been here all this while, these guys have tortured me. And sometimes they'll hoodwink them. Say, you accept, then we'll let you go. You accept, and then they say, okay, now that you have pleaded guilty, you're going to serve 10 years, or whatever the case might be. We are following up all of these matters, but we are telling the state, look, if you have evidence, produce it. Why do you blackmail people into accepting? Finally, Juma Kilia asked, what more shall we do about corruption? We are glad that we have engaged in all of these efforts to expose this corruption. That's the number one thing. Now Ugandans know about the corruption that's happening in Parliament and elsewhere. That's our important role, keeping the government in check, and keeping the public abreast about what's going on. It's very important. Like I said, I wish I had powers. Many of these people would be rotting in jail, not the political prisoners whom they are locking up. Those are not the ones meant to be in jail. It is these thieves who are meant to be in jail. But what you should be sure of is that we are going to dig deeper. We are going to expose a lot more. In the coming days, you're going to see many other revelations. Yeah, you'll see them out there, as you have been seeing. So we'll keep doing that. We'll keep exposing this rot, this theft, this thuggery. That's our duty. And no one is going to intimidate me about that. And yes, I've got some people who tell me, but Joel, now you are knowing this person too much. Are they not going to harm you? We'll do our job. And so you'll keep seeing a lot more of these things, yeah? Now I'll put you on notice. Mu Luganda yabuuziza ensonga za IGG n'abalala mukolaganye nabo ebitongole bino twali wano ne mbalagamba baluwa nga mbawandiikidde IGG, Auditor General, DPP nga mbagamba banoonyereze ku Parliament obubbi obuli wano. Kosi ne beebuzaabuza kale tukyalinzeeko tulindidde ono amalirize then naffe tujje era ngenda kuddamu mbajjukize okutuukiriza obuvunaanyizibwa bwabwe. Shamim, lwaki nduddewo okwogera ku nsonga zino? Yes, nze nganze mbadde siriiwo ne bannange ababaddewo. Ensonga zino babadde bazoogerako mu Parliament. Chief Whip abaddewo, bannange abalala, Honorable Muwada n'abalala babadde baziriko. Nina enkenkomyewo eddoboozi lyange oliwulidde. Minisita w'obutonde bw'ensi abadde azoogerako nnyo naddala ensonga ezo za recycling n'ebirala. Bannange bonna ababaddewo kubanga yes, muntu omu ne bw'aba taliiwo tekitegeeza nti emirimu tegijja ttambula. Gino sigala nga gitambula bwe kirina okubeera. Muhumuza, wali ogenzeko ku bitundu by'eggwanga eby'enjawulo, munna tugendayo nnyo. Ngendayo nnyo ku nsonga ez'enjawulo. Yes, nyinza okugendayo era nga tugenze ku mobilization nga NUP, n'era bwe ngendayo ndaba ebigenda mu maaso eyo ng'omukulembeze tukomawo ne tuyoogerako wano. Yes, oluusi bayinza okunnemesa okukikola nga leader of opposition. Juzi twagenda ne Kampala downtown ku nguudo embi mu Kampala nga tuzirambula. Speaker n'akubira Clark. Mmotoka za Parliament ezo batambulidde mu vans zonna ziveeyo ne bazijjayo. Ne tugamba kale tewali buzibu. Ne tupangisa taxi awo ne tugenda maaso n'omulimu gwaffe. So yes, bayinza okugezaako okulemesa oversight eyo naye tusigala tujja gikola era ebitundu bino tubigendamu. Naye n'okusingira ddala ensonga zino tuzimanyiiko yes kubanga tugendayo naye n'ababaka b'ebitundu ebyo ku Parliament, ku floor ya Parliament, buli omu abayogera ku bigenda maaso mu kitundu kye. Matters of national importance ne babyogerako, petitions naki. So tuyinza gamba mbu kaakati kyetaagisa Parliament yonna okusituka egende mu kitundu ekyo. Nedda. Abantu bano baasindikibwa, ababaka bano baasindikibwa ebitundu ebyo tukwogera ku nsonga ezo. Ne committees ez'enjawulo zigenda mu bitundu by'eggwanga eby'enjawulo ku lwa Parliament ne zikola reports. Kaakati lwaki tukozesa information eyo n'owuddisa abantu nti Parliament yonna tulina ogisitula egendeyo as if waliwo ekyenjawulo okuggyako okusaasaanya obuwumi n'obuwumbi buno. Nakamya opposition abamu bayinza okubeerayo yes kya bulijjo kibeerawo. Twagamba tujja genda mu State of the National Address ne budget mu abalaba abamu baaliyo. Bwe twali tufulumye Parliament mwaka oguwedde ku lw'abantu abatulugunyizibwa abaguzibwawo naki mwalaba abamu ne bambala amasuuti gaabwe ne bagenda ne batuula opposition. So tekyewuunyisa nnyo, abamu bajja kubeerayo. Tekyewuunyisa nnyo kiri awo. Kibeera kibi ambassador okulaga sayidi ye gy'awagira. Eyabuze ekibuuzo ekyo nja musomooza asome Vienna Convention treaties zino ezimu eziraga bambasada balina kweyisa batya. Ambasada tagenda nga political activist tikakati yagenze nga muwagizi wa NRM aba akiikirira ggwanga lyonna. Kyovudde olaba amawanga agamu go gakitwala nga kiri serious ne bagaa kakati omuntu ono katumugobe. Canada kye yakoze kubanga wano e Uganda newankubadde katugambe abakozi ba gavumenti tebalina kwetaba mu politics bakikola. Gavumenti neyo tabako bakola ku kintu kyonna. Naye amawanga amalala go tegali bwe gatyo. bw'ova ku mulamuwa ng'amateeka bwe gagamba nga bw'olina okweyisa nga ambassador bajja kukugoba. Ate Joel Ruth Aceng tebamugobye. Ramson Joel Ruth Aceng. Joel Ruth Aceng yerinnya ly'engambye, not Jane Ruth Aceng. Banjawulo. Jane Ruth Aceng is the Minister for Health. Joel Ruth Aceng yono ambassador omuswavu gwe bagobye gwe bakutte ku nkoona mubiraza wa NRM. Mune bwe buzibu obwo olumu oba ofaananya erinnya n'omuntu n'ogenda n'akola ebitaliiyo ebiswaza naawe n'oswala. Naye Joy Ruth Aceng yoyo. Ramson, yes, lwaki buli kiseera obeera mu kwemulugunya? Kakati obuvunaanyizibwa bwange kulondoola gavumenti kugikeepinga in check. Kyekino kyenkola munnange. Abamu bayinza okirabanga okwemulugunyanga okukaaba bwe buvunaanyizibwa bwange ne bannange. Era ku lw'obuvunaanyizibwa buno ku lwakuno okwogera kwe bwamu kwe muyita okukaaba, eggwanga kati limanyi ki ekigenda mu maaso mu Parliament. Bumanyi eggwanga limanyi obubbi obugenda mu maaso. Ku lw'obuvunaanyizibwa obwo obwaffe bwe tutuukiriza. Yes, oluusi tukikola mu alternative budget, ministerial policy statements, alternatives n'ebirala, minority reports, nga yes bwe twemulugunya tubalaga kino kye kituufu ekirina okukolebwa. Okay, so yes, nalibadde nange saagala kwemulugunya bwemulugunya. Singa nina obuyinza bano ababba ssente y'omusolo balibadde bali mu kkomera. Naye sinnabufuna. Singa nabasiba dda nnyo nno n'ebisumuluzo n'embikanyuga. Naye obuyinza bwe nnina kati kubalondoola, kubateekako kazito, kyekyo kyenkola. Ne bannange tujja sigala nga tukikola, tujja sigala nga tubalabisa. Kikulu ky'obudde kati eggwanga limanyi obubbi obugenda mu maaso. Kubanga singa tetubalabisa ne tusirika nga bannaffe abamu, kati ebimu mutandise obitegeera kati, kubanga tugaanye tetujja bisiriikirira. Eyagambye nti ow'ekitiibwa yagambye nti bukyanga ava mu ofiisi emirimu tegitambula. Well, simanyi oba yakyogedde, naye nze mba saagala kwegeraageranya na muntu yenna, kubanga nze Joel Ssenyonyi n'omulala abeera mulala. Enkola zaffe zibeera za njawulo. Kakati nze bwe nayingira ofiisi eno ne ŋŋamba ŋŋenda kuwanika obuziina bwonna obuli wano mu Parliament. Kyovudde mutandika obitegeera ebyakolebwa emyaka egyayita nga batula mu commission ne beegabira obusente naki. Ne ŋŋamba nedda bino byonna tujja bijjayo mu ngeri ez'enjawulo era muzze mu birabo ebyo. Era n'ebirala bijja. Mujja biraba, tujja sigala nga twanika obuziina buno nga tulemerako ku nsonga za corruption ez'obuli bw'enguzi. Obanga bannanga abalala bo teyali nsonga, of course teyali badde ensonga kubanga baaleetaba mu bintu bino. Kakati nze bwe nayingirawo ne ŋŋamba nedda byonna nja bijjayo, byonna ebize bibeerawo, kubanga ebintu bino byonna bye muze mulaba si bya wiiki ewedde, si bya mwezi guwedde. Zino zi contracts ze beegabira Amongo n'abalala baani zaaliwo mu kiseera ekyo, zisaabisa waali n'ebirala. Kati nze bwe nayingira ofiisi ne bannange ne tugamba nti nedda, ensonga zino tulina okuzoogerako, obubbi buno bulina okuvaayo, eggwanga ne litegeera, era n'ebirala bikyajja mujja biraba. Sserowooza agambye nti abasibe abamu baagala okukkiriza emisango kyannaku nti gavumenti ekwata omuntu ne mugyetekako ebisangosango, obujulizi ne bubula kuba tebuliiyo. Kati olw'okubanga obujulizi tebuliiyo ng'etandika batiisatiisa nti kakati mukkirize ebintu bino tubate. Bannaffe bano bazze batubuulira nti batuukiriddwa abantu ab'enjawulo okuva mu state naki nga babagamba mukkirize emisango gino tubate. Naye ate wagamba omuntu yazza omusango, lwaki toleeta obujulizi? Omusango ne gumukka mu vvi. Lwaki oba omutiisatiisa akkirize ng'ate gw'ogamba obujulizi obulina? Kati kikulaga nti ebintu bino bijweteke. Of course abamu abasinga bagambye nedda tetujja kukkiriza misango gino kubanga tebaagiza. Abamu bayinza okupondooka, omuntu alaba naye abantu bano bantulugunyiza nnyo, kampondooke nzikirize. Sinti yakikola naye ng'agamba owaayo oli awo kinantaasa okuva mu kkomera. Ate ng'ekyo nakyo toyinza kukyesigamako nnyo kubanga abantu bano bawuddiisa nnyo. Toyinza okukkiriza omusango ne bagamba kakati engeri gy'okukkiriza tugenda kusiba emyaka 10. So bwe buzibu obuliwo naye tugamba gavumenti nti oba mulina obujulizi ku bantu bano lwaki ate mubatiisatiisa bakkirize emisango gino ng'ate obujulizi obulina lwaki temubutwala mu kkooti mubalumirize. Finally Juma Kirya kiki ekirala kyetugenda okukola ku nsonga kyetuliko tugenda kwongezaamu bwongeza ekyokuwanika obuziina buno ekyokulaga eggwanga obubbi obugenda mu maaso ekyokunokolayo ensonga zino ekyokulabisa ensonga zino tugenda kwongezaamu bwongeza. Abamu bayinza okulowooza nti mwe mukyogerako bwogezi. Yes, nkyogerako kubanga sirina buyinza kaakano bubasiba. Bisinga mbulina singa nabasiba dda. Naye obuyinza bwe nnina okulondoola gavumenti okugikipinga in check. Tujja sigala nga twanika obubbi buno obugenda mu maaso n'eggwanga litegeere. Kati eggwanga limanyi nti obubbi we buli wano mu Parliament kitaaliwo luli. Ate ekyo kirungi eggwanga ne litegeera. Ne litawuddiisibwa. Era mulaba amaloboozi gavaayo. Kyovudde olaba bannaffe bano bapapala kakati eggwanga nga litukyaye kakati tugezeko tugende tubakyalira ebitundu by'eggwanga eby'enjawulo. Balowooza kinaaba naazaako enziro. Nedda. So kino kye tukola kikulu. Era njagala kukubira omulanga bannange tewabaawo omuntu yenna abanafuya nti bwe mubyogerako bwogezi naki. Yes, buvunaanyizibwa bwaffe okwogera ku nsonga zino. Kyovudde tuli mu ofiisi zino tujja sigala nga twogera ku nsonga zino. Bwe tunayingira gavumenti nga tulina obuyinza awo tuba tetukyabyogeraako nga Mwai Museveni naye abyogerako bwogezi n'addaawo ne yeemulugunya n'agamba mwenjabba seba mwenjabba teka ku firing squad n'addamu ebyo. Kakati ffe tujja kuba tuganidda ono asibibwe ng'amateeka bwe gagamba. Mwebale nnyo.